When you hear about a conflict between Israel and Iran, you probably picture the Middle East. Missiles, drones, tense headlines. But this war, thousands of miles away, is shaking up life across Africa. In this video, we will go through all the ways the conflict will affect Africa. The world is so connected that the crisis there quickly becomes a crisis everywhere. For many African nations, this isn't just distant news. It's a storm affecting fuel, food, and daily life. As of June 13, 2025, Israel has attacked Iran. Iran has threatened to target American bases if war breaks out, escalating global uncertainty. In a global economy, uncertainty is expensive. The Israel-Iran conflict disrupts shipping lanes, sends oil prices soaring, and forces countries to pick sides. African nations, though not the main actors, feel the consequences sharply, from South African ports to Nigerian markets. Understanding these connections is the first step to finding solutions. The Red Sea, once a global trade shortcut, is now a danger zone as conflict escalates. Ships are rerouting around Africa's Cape of Good Hope, turning quiet coasts into busy maritime highways. Africa's ports are seeing a boom. Vessel traffic in South Africa has jumped over 300%, and container traffic is up 50%. Currently, in some ports, ships wait days or weeks to unload, driving up shipping costs and slowing deliveries. Instead of a windfall, congestion is choking trade and dropping port productivity by nearly 18%. The opportunity is clear. Invest in better infrastructure and management to turn this crisis into long-term gain. African governments face a choice: manage the chaos now and modernize, or risk being left behind. If ports can expand and streamline, Africa could become a central player in global trade, not just a detour. It is also important to note that some ports are owned by foreign players, so even in those ports, Africa has to make sure taxation works and local economies benefit. The world's ships are knocking. Will Africa be ready to open the door? This is a wake-up call for the continent's future in global commerce. The answer will shape Africa's role in the world economy. The pressure is on and the stakes are high. The time to act is now. Some of the world's biggest oil producers, Nigeria, Angola, Libya, are still dependent on imported oil. Why? They export crude but import expensive refined fuel, making them vulnerable to global price shocks. The Israel-Iran conflict threatens the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil passes. Any disruption sends prices soaring. Analysts warn of $150 a barrel if the strait closes. For African importers, this means fuel shortages, inflation, and economic pain. High fuel prices ripple through the economy. Food, transport, and electricity all get more expensive, hitting the poorest hardest. The dream of oil wealth becomes a nightmare of instability. Relying on imported fuel makes these nations hostages to global events. The solution? Invest in domestic refineries to process their own oil and ensure affordable fuel. It's a tough path, but the cost of inaction is even higher. The current crisis is a powerful argument for change. African leaders must act now to break the cycle of dependency. The future depends on energy independence. War's true cost is human, not just economic. Millions of African families rely on remittances from relatives working in Gulf states. If conflict spreads, jobs in the Gulf could vanish, affecting remittance-dependent countries like Somalia. Meanwhile, some African countries see a tourism boost as travelers seek safer destinations. Morocco's visitors jumped 20% last year. Other African countries like Rwanda are also benefiting, but this needs to be more targeted. The region walks a tightrope. Opportunity and risk are intertwined. As the Israel-Iran war intensifies, both countries seek allies in Africa, turning the continent into a new arena for influence. Let's look at the numbers behind Africa's growing trade ties, starting with Israel. Trade between Israel and Morocco jumped 53%, and with Egypt, it's up 52%. South Africa's exports to Israel saw a massive increase, up 288% in just 1 year from March 2024 to March 2025. These ties are driven by sectors like agriculture technology, mining, and especially security and defense partnerships. Now, Iran. In 2024, Iran exported $1.18 billion worth of goods to 49 African countries. That's a slight drop, about 1% lower than the year before. But African exports to Iran grew fast, up 59% year on year. South Africa's exports to Iran also climbed, up 72% in March 2025 compared to the same month the previous year. Iran's trade strategy focuses on oil petrochemicals and military hardware, especially with countries like Ethiopia, Sudan and South Africa. Bottom line, these are more than just trade numbers. They show how both Israel and Iran are competing for influence in Africa, not only with diplomacy and weapons, but with business and long-term positioning. Iran expands its reach with military drones and security deals in the Horn and Sahel. Israel counters with agricultural tech, security tools, and intelligence sharing, winning diplomatic ties across Africa. African leaders face a balancing act, tempting offers from both sides, but also the risk of being drawn into a dangerous rivalry. The US is scaling back aid, creating a gap that Iran and Israel are eager to fill. Competing influences now shape Africa's future. Israeli experts in one country, Iranian advisors in another. This is a new scramble for Africa, with influence as the prize. Short-term gains are possible, but aligning too closely with one side risks instability. Careful diplomacy is essential. African nations must define their own interests and navigate this chessboard wisely. The choices made now will echo for years. The continent's future is in its own hands. Crisis can break you or make you stronger. Africa's test is to turn the fallout from distant wars into a catalyst for self-reliance. The first step, invest in domestic refineries and renewable energy to shield economies from global shocks. Next, modernize ports and logistics to transform trade bottlenecks into gateways for growth. Strengthen intra-African trade through the AfCFTA, building resilience against external disruptions. Reduce dependency on remittance and diversify tourism to withstand global instability. Proactive leadership is needed. Africa can't afford to be a bystander. By investing in energy, trade and people, the continent can emerge stronger and more in control. The future should be shaped in Africa's capitals, not by distant powers. This is the moment to build a resilient, self-determined Africa.